Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For a moment of silence, remain standing for a minute. We'll have a moment of silence, and tonight we'll keep the family of an employee of the county, Mr. James Wahovich, who passed away recently. We'll keep his family in our prayers. Thank you. Time is always allotted at the end of each meeting for the commissioners to receive comments from the public. We have a couple public notices. Code Home Rule Bill, let me see. Code Home Rule Bill number 3-2023, Arts and Entertainment District Property Tax Credit. I think the legislation was adopted on September the 19th, 2023 without amendments, and the provisions of this act shall take effect on November the 3rd, 2023. And then we have Code Home Rule Bill number 4-2023 entitled Residential Sprinkler Property Tax Credit Extension, and the same thing with that. It will take place, it will become law on November the 3rd. We have some consent items before us tonight. We have our regular session minutes dated September 26, 2023. We have our liquor minutes dated September 26, 2023. We have our public hearing minutes dated September the 26, 2023. We have some closed session minutes dated September the 26, 2023. And then Bill Mackey, Director of Planning, Housing, and Zoning, with the Maryland Community Development Block Grant, Maryland-22-CD-1. Do I entertain a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Then we have a special class, an application has been made for a special Class C license for the Sergeant Preston Ashley American Legion Auxiliary for beer only on October the 15th, 2023. This being an application for alcohol use, it needs a public hearing. We will consider tonight our public hearing. At this time, anyone that would like to speak in favor or against that application, please feel free to do so at this time.
Mr. President, I do have one comment. I've reviewed it, everything's in order, but just for clarification, that it's going to be held at the bulkhead, which is county property. So the county is signing off, or you have signed in your capacity as a county commissioner, not as the individual owner of the bulkhead.
Right.
So I think the form that the Legion submitted was the old form before we updated it. So it doesn't specify that the person signing is signing on behalf of the owner. So just for clarification, that the owner of the property is the county, and you've signed it in your capacity as president of the commissioners to approve it.
Very good. Again, anyone that wants to speak for or against this application, feel free to do so at this time. There being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the special Class C liquor license application for Sergeant Ashley American Legion Auxiliary.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Ms. Beth Hill, a 4-H educator and principal agent associate for the University of Maryland Extension. She's here for National 4-H Week, and she's been with us and been doing this job for a lot of years.
31 now.
31.
Maybe 32.
Really?
Yes.
So I have two club leaders here with me, as well as some of our 4-H'ers, and they just wanted to show you a couple of things that they've been working on before we do our proclamation. And I do want to thank you for your support of 4-H, because you guys are integral to making our program a success. But obviously, our volunteers and our 4-H'ers are the key as well, because they're the ones who actually live it and breathe it every day. So I have Jack, Jacob, and Hailey Orndorff here, and Casey Turner. So they're going to just show you a little bit about what you guys do. Do you want to tell them?
You want to follow Casey's? Well, Casey go first, and then that'll help you. Okay.
My name is Casey Turner, and I've been in 4-H for about 11 years now. Next year will be my final year before aging out of the program. Throughout my time in 4-H, I've competed with baking, cattle, beef cattle, swine, horses, and next year I plan on adding lamb, meat goats, dairy breeding goats, and that would be along with the dogs that I also show. I've competed everywhere from county to state to the national level at 4-H, and I hope to do a national trip again next year.
Very good.
Casey has
Congratulations.
also put in an application to do a diamond clover project down at the Kent Ag Center. So she's looking to build a judge's stand for the horse ring that would be mobile. The gazebo that's there right now is in disrepair, so she has a project lined up to do that. So that's a Diamond Clover Level 6 project is about a 100-hour service project on the level of an Eagle Scout. So she's done her homework so far, and now we're just waiting for approval from the state for her project. So we're looking forward to that for 2024, and it'll be there for the fair, hopefully. Boys, do you have anything you want to say about what you do? You want to hold up your... These guys all do beef cattle, and so they wanted to show you a little bit of their projects that they've been working on. They're very hands-on, despite being on the younger side of our project members. Jack is a first year, second year? This was your first year in 4-H, so he sold a steer for the first time this year, but they work on their home beef farm, and so they look at the numbers, the genetics, so they're really looking into that. Hailey, you want to say what you do?
My name is Hailey Orndorff, and I show a bunny and a cow.
Do you have any questions of the kids of anything that they do? Obviously, animals are well represented here tonight, but we certainly have a wide range of project areas, everything from woodworking and baking and photography to lots of different other projects. But animals are well represented here tonight, and that is the bread and butter of our county 4-H program. We are heavily animal science and ag-related in our program, and that's certainly, we're very proud of that, but we're proud that we do other things as well. So any questions that you might have of them?
No questions, but nice job.
Okay.
And again, I failed to say the reason we have a proclamation prepared for you
Okay.
for 4-H weekend. Commissioner Nickerson will
I'm going
read
to attempt
that.
to read this for you guys.
Okay.
This is a proclamation, National 4-H Week, October 1st through the 7th, 2023. Whereas 4-H is America's largest youth development organization, empowering nearly 6 million young people with the skills to lead for a lifetime. And whereas 4-H has helped over 120 county youth in club and clover programs to become confident, independent, resilient, and compassionate leaders. Whereas 4-H is delivered by Cooperative Extension, a community of more than 100 public universities across the nation that provides experiences for young people to learn by doing hands-on projects in the areas including health, science, agriculture, and civic engagement. And whereas National 4-H Week showcases the incredible experiences that 4-H offers young people and the highlights that remarkable 4-H youth and volunteers in Kent County who work each day to make a positive impact on those around them. And whereas 4-H's network of over 500,000 volunteers and 3,500 professionals provides caring and supportive mentoring to all 4-Hers, helping them grow into true leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. And now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, do hereby proclaim October 1st through the 7th, 2023, as National 4-H Week in Kent County. We encourage all of our citizens to recognize 4-H for the significant impact they have made and continue to make by empowering youth with the skills they need to learn to lead for a lifetime. Signed, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Ronald H. Fithian, President, Albert H. Nickerson, Member, and John F. Price, Member. Congratulations, young man.
Thank you so much.
I do want to say one thing before we'll get a picture if you guys would like. But, one of our own 4-Hers who is just slightly younger than me, who was raised in 4-H in Kent County, is now the national, I don't know what her official title is, but she's the CFO?
She is Jill Bramble.
Yep.
Jill Smith Bramble is the CEO of National 4-H Council, which is the national arm, the private national arm that supports 4-H across the country. So she was just named the CEO this summer,
Yep.
and she has taken over, and we're very proud that she
Yeah,
is a Kent County
she's
4-Her.
About that.
Yeah. So-
Very nice.
So you guys all have something to aspire to. If you'd like a picture, Beth.
Yes, please. Yes, you want to come out here with the commissioners? Yeah. Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Tom, you're going to assist with this legislative session.
Mr. President, Mr. Mackey can come forward.
Yes.
He has a proposed zoning text amendment, and this evening is just the introduction. If you desire to go forward with this, then you would consider this to be introduced, and then you would direct staff to schedule it for a public hearing, and then after the public hearing, you would vote on it. So you're not taking any vote tonight. You're just hearing from Mr. Mackey as to what this legislation will accomplish. Mr. Mackey.
All right, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Bill.
The item before you is a proposed code home rule bill, which is an applicant-initiated zoning text amendment. It would amend Kent County's land use ordinance to add a brand-new land use to be called outdoor retreat. And that would be added as a special exception in specific zoning districts. An outdoor retreat, and I'm reading from the proposed definition, would include 15 guest units and may contain outdoor recreational accommodations, dining facilities for guests, and bathroom accommodations for guests. And I think this is, one way to describe this is it's sort of in the realm of glamping. So we don't have a current use that would address this proposal, so the applicant has put together a zoning text amendment. I believe the representative is in the audience. And this has gone through the process to this point. It went before the Planning Commission during the summer, and they made recommendations, and a letter is attached for your information. It also went before the Agricultural Advisory Commission because the original proposal was to include this use in AZD, and so Agricultural Advisory Commission would review it. The proposed CHRB in your packet incorporates the recommendations by those bodies. I think key to that was Agricultural Advisory Commission recommended that it not be included in AZD, so it is not proposed in AZD now. This item is presented for introduction, as County Attorney mentioned, in order to schedule a public hearing, and staff does recommend approval in order to schedule that public hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I read it as I was reading over it. The only thing that kind of, I don't have a problem with it, but I did see in there where it was a man and his wife are allowed to bring 2 children. I don't know what you do with the third one if you have 3, but
Perhaps
guess
you
you
rent
have to
another
call
cabin, I
straws
don't
or
know,
something
yeah.
to see who can go, who can't. I don't know whether that's necessary to have it limited to 2 children or whether
Okay.
you, just something that I saw and I thought, you know, that kind of makes sense to me.
And that's something we can amend before it's passed. So
Yeah,
if there
sure.
are, if there's input from the commissioners or input taken at the public hearing before you vote on it, you can certainly, by interlineation, amend it. We would just need to make sure that any changes are done in writing.
So today, we're just deciding whether we want to move forward with the public hearing or not.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Is this, was this brought about, I seen Rock Hall, Town of Rock Hall on one of the, is that what was considered, they were considered doing down there?
I don't
It
know.
was like a
Sorry.
clamping.
Don't know if Rock Hall was considering that or not. And this is a little different than traditional glamping, but it's sort of in the same realm, I guess, you know.
Well, who brought, just out of curiosity, who brought it forth, I guess?
A property owner named Sandra Donnelly,
I'm sorry?
a property owner named Sandra Donnelly,
Okay,
represented by Lance Young.
uh-huh, very good.
So, and that's, she's interested in having a business venture on her property to be able to have folks come. I know in some of the public hearings for Planning Commission, there was talk about maybe there being things like events surrounding like poetry and literature. It would be sort of an interactive weekend sort of event. So, and this was a way of providing lodging and facilities to accommodate that kind of activity.
Very good. Well, you have any questions, John?
No, I've read the recommendations of the Planning Commission after their review, and I've read the Agriculture Advisory Commission's recommendations as well. And I think the way to maybe move this process forward so that we can all hear a little more about this is to make a motion to proceed with the public hearing and give the citizens of the county and others a chance to comment. So I'd like to make a motion to move and introduce Code Home Rule 5-2023 and for the bill to be scheduled and advertised for a public hearing in the Commissioners' hearing room at 400 High Street in Chestertown, Maryland.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. First appointment, we have Sharice Kennard, our clerk, and Kaylee McCoy Diker, Chief Deputy Clerk of the Circuit Court of Kent County. And it's a request for security enhancements.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Madam Clerk, would you like to come up?
I'm okay here.
You okay? I might have a question or two for you.
I think that's why she wants to sit back there.
Problem.
But
Well-
Kelly has been in charge of this project
And she's
from
very
beginning,
capable,
yes, to end. So,
Nice to see
thank you for having us. Good
You're
evening.
welcome.
So we're requesting just some security improvements in the courthouse under the Maryland State Judiciary funding, but that requires an MOU with the county. The items are security cameras, blast film, access points, an updated duress alarm, bullet-resistant transaction window, and a magnetic lock for our front door. So the total cost of that is the $71,537.49, which would be reimbursed by the judiciary. And then we're also requesting a modified MOU from 2021 so that we can do a bullet-resistant window wall panel in our judicial department.
So the way this works is we move forward and the county kind of pays for things and then they get reimbursed.
Yes, so once it's done, the invoices will be sent to the judiciary, and they said they would reimburse as soon as possible.
Any other questions?
And this has been, they've been working very closely with the Department of Public Works, and there's been a security assessment done by the state, and everybody's worked well together moving toward this end goal.
And the security assessment has just been done as recently as.
It was a couple months ago, and I have copies
Yes.
of that if you need it.
And I'm sure Judge Murphy and the security committee have all met and talked about this, and
Yes,
they're very supportive of
Yes.
this type of thing.
yes, he's been included in all the emails.
Any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
It's a pretty easy one, huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Especially when we're gonna get reimbursed.
Well, I wish we didn't have to, I wish we were back in
enhanced.
1998 and we didn't have to do it.
And we enhance the safety of our buildings. So
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the signing of the 2021 Memorandum of Understanding. Modification number 1, E21-0012-25K as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Now, see, that didn't hurt, did it?
Not at all.
Mr. Pete Landon, Director of Office of Emergency Services. This one's not going to take long either, I don't think. But it's good to see you, Pete.
Good to see you. Thank you, good evening. I'll be very quick, and I appreciate your time letting me describe what we're talking about. Essentially, there are many businesses, including the Kent County government, the Kent County Board of Education, as well as private businesses in this county that have AED devices throughout the county. We had, if you remember, this spring, an incident where a child was saved at Betterton Beach. The luck of that incident was that the lifeguards were on duty and there was access to an AED. In May, I saw an article in the Star Democrat about a foundation that was providing funding for AED program enhancement. Had discussions with them, and they've agreed to fund the county with a one-time grant to expand our AEDs on Kent County-owned property. And some of the locations that will be, I'll work on that with the Kent County Public Works as well as Parks and Recreation. Could be Wharton Park, could be Bayside Landing, places like that. Again, there's no cost to the county. My office will oversee the money that comes in, the reporting that's necessary to complete it, and I think it's a pretty quick way to expand our AEDs available that'll save lives to our citizens, visitors, and anyone traveling in the county.
How many AEDs would that buy?
I have to tell you, Mr. President, it depends on what type are provided. If you get a pedestal one, that uses up a lot of money, but there are other units that attach to walls and structures. I'll use Wharton Park as an example. There is a state-owned commissary or food shack out there where it could be mounted to that, and it wouldn't necessitate Public Works engineering and/or building a concrete pad and a pedestal. So it's enough seed money to hopefully build 3 or locate 3 AEDs that right now we just don't have.
Pretty good.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
And as far as the maintenance on these devices, once they're in place, you're able to handle that within?
Correct. Yeah, the Office of Emergency Services will handle, maintenance on the devices, much like they do the Board of Education and the ones that not only our office use, but the county as well as the Sheriff's Department.
Any questions?
No, I think this one's pretty
Then
easy.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the county commissioners of Kent County accept a one-time grant of $20,000, allowing the expansion of the publicly available emergency AED equipment on select Kent County-owned properties.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Mr. Jim Miller, Director of Human Resources, update on the retiree health insurance.
Good evening. Really, my purpose this evening is simply just to give you all a quick update of where we stand. We've been working HR, county administrator, the commissioners, as well as interfacing with Chris Riley at AmWIMS. And we have a meeting coming up with Kate Loby from Benetcon to walk our way through all the pieces of what it's going to take to basically reconstruct the retiree health program that we suspended in July. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and basically we want to make sure that when we do it this time that we do it cleanly and correctly. There's still some things that we want to cover, and we want to make sure that the policy as we create it makes sense going forward, and that we have the pieces in place to create the documentation that's necessary to do what the commissioners have expressed their desire to have done. Just want to let you know that we're continuing to work on it. The phone meeting last week with the consultant from AmWIMS went very well. There's a phone call this Friday with Benetcon, and we've had a number of departmental and meetings to go over piece by piece what this should look like. It's not simple, but we believe that we're going to do it right this time, and that's where we stand. Just wanted everybody to know what we had going on.
Well, for those that might be listening, and I see at least one of the retirees here in the audience, I feel that we owe a little more explanation to what we are actually trying to put back in place. It can be just a broad, because I know we've had several meetings, we've been through it, we know that we can do what we were doing.
Yes.
Once the HRA is in place. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Jim, but
It's okay.
and I realize there are still some things we need to tweak depending on what age group you're in. But for the ones that, in my opinion, I think Ronnie and Albert would agree, suffered unnecessarily, unfortunately. As a result of this, it stressed a lot of people out. If you could just give a broad overview of what the retirees are going to be getting now compared to what they had, which
All right,
it's
I'll take
my
my best crack
understanding.
at it.
It's my understanding that it's consistent, very consistent, identical to what they had at one time.
Yeah, we've looked at it in terms of really two larger groups and two subsets. So if you think about it in terms of the retirees who were already retired and in place before July 1st of this year. I apologize. If you take that group, the ones that were already over 65 and the ones that were under the age of 65, and what we did effective July 1 and basically suspended everything that was going on. Our intent and the plan is to put everything back into place for those groups, to get the documentation in place, that's regulatory documentation that's required to establish the HRA, to allow us to do the reimbursements that were being done. We recognize that, frankly, putting it bluntly, I think we rushed to judgment at the end of June and stopped something that we could have dealt with at the time. We could have documented, we could have submitted the paperwork to have those programs in place. We didn't realize it. We thought the one was out of the question entirely. We now recognize that that wasn't entirely correct. It wasn't that we couldn't do it, we just had never done it. For whatever reason, it had never been done. So putting that group back to where they were, in effect making them whole.
With the proper documentation
With
being
the-
filed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that that's going to take some time. The HRA, the best estimate we have is once everybody is on board with exactly how it's supposed to look, filing the paperwork, getting the approval, is probably a 30 to 40-day process. The bigger piece of it is getting everything lined up so that we can handle the reimbursements, so that we can handle the reimbursements. Then we looked at the group who would be retirees as of July 1 of this year and going forward. And we still saw that there was some differences in how that group would be if they were already at age 65 plus and eligible for Medicare versus the ones who were below the age of 65 but retired from here. And how would they get managed? And we're working towards what that should look like because it gets tricky when you have the under 65 group and then they roll into the age 65 and they become eligible for the Medicare. And what do we do with that and how do we handle those reimbursements given the fact that one of the mandates that we feel we had from the commissioners was to begin looking at that group as we have looked at active employees starting with July 1 and how we've handled those reimbursements. So making sure that's all lined up and making sure that we know what we're going to do with those two big groups and the two subgroups. And then I guess, to be frank, there is a fifth group out there, and that fifth group, it's kind of a sad group, actually. It's what do we do if we have the spouse of one of our own retirees pass away, and how do we handle that, and how do we try to...
It's just the opposite. The retiree would pass away.
Yes,
what do we
and
do
the
with
spouse of one, yeah, did I say it the other way? I'm sorry.
I think you had it backwards.
I think I had it's gotten tricky.
But go ahead, it is very.
One of our retirees passes away, their spouse who was never an employee of ours. And what do we do for that? Did I get it right the second time? And what do we do for that individual? How do we try to ensure that that person who has been basically part of the family without being an employee for however many years doesn't all of a sudden suffer a massive expense that they never had to handle in the past. So we're trying to work our way through how can we as the county help those individuals if and when that situation arises. That's been tricky.
What we had actually talked about, should the retiree pass away, unfortunately, the spouse would be allowed to continue with their gap insurance, if that's what they
choose,
at the same cost that a county employee is paying.
The spouse would have paid, yeah. Yeah, exactly, and we want to make sure that's making sense, and honestly, putting some policy language around some of that has gotten tricky. Several of us have reviewed multiple drafts, and there continues to be, well, what about this situation, or what about this, how do we tweak this one? So we want to get it right this time. We don't want anybody to go through what a group of individuals went through back in June. Does that
I think it's safe to say that when this is, obviously it's taken longer than we would have liked for it to have taken. I mean, it took very little time to do away with it, but it took a hell of a long time to get it back. But what I want the retirees and to know is that they're going to be held harmless. It may take a little time to work out the bugs or whatever, but they can after tonight they can feel sure that not much is going to change.
Yeah, and that's what we're working towards, about how do we make that happen, and in what fashion do we ensure that. That's part of the reason why we're speaking to the consultant at AmWIMS and why we're speaking to the consultants at Benetcon to understand very specifically from them. And all AmWIMS does is retiree health. That's their business. So we're talking to them to make sure that we understand what they can do for the county and for our retirees. We want to get it right this time.
So the last time we talked about this, I was hopeful that we could start back to normal as of October 1st. It became pretty obvious that was not going to happen. And then we said November 1st. Are we still on schedule for November 1st? Because November 1st is closer. It's not 40 days away. It's sooner.
And that's a problem, because the best advice we're getting now is that it could take 30 to 40 days to stand up the HRA. And we need to have that in place.
When did you get that advice? Just today or?
No, that was in the meeting, the phone call we had with Amwins last week.
So the clock started ticking the last week, or does it start ticking when you?
No,
enter
at
into
this
a
point, what
contract?
we've done with Amwins is provided them with all the detailed information they needed to have about about the retirees and the plans and what our structure has looked like, so they can then say, here's how we can do it, here's what we can do, and maybe do it better and make it more beneficial for your retirees. The reason for the call this Friday with Benecon is to go back over, Benecon and Amwins work very closely together, is to go back over with them specifics on the HRA to make sure that what we're signing up for is what's going to work, and what the three of you are going to sign off on and say, yeah, this is where we want it to be, this is how we want it to be.
I appreciate everything that you and your staff have done to try to resolve this. Obviously, I would like to have it done yesterday.
As would we.
And it is important that we do get it right. But to me, and I don't want to speak for Commissioner Fithian or Commissioner Nickerson, but I'd like to see you make this a priority and make this happen as quickly as possible.
It absolutely has been. This has been something that we've been working on every day.
I'm not being critical, but it doesn't.
Not taking it.
It doesn't feel like it's been at this point. I mean, this has been going on since July 1st. And here we are now, the 1st of October. I try to be reasonable in my thought process here, but
And I respect that, and
it's taken a lot of time.
I understand it. We have been working on this practically every day since we found out that we probably jumped the gun on July 1st. Yeah, I would have liked to have had it fixed, 2 months ago. But that simply was not the reality, at least not the reality that I was seeing. And some of you have seen multiple drafts of where we want to go, how we want this to operate. It continues to be drafts because we continue to find more pieces, more questions that come up. I can't speak for the policy that is in place currently or the one that was put in place or how we got to where we are. And yeah, we obviously stopped something real quickly and it's taken longer to start it back up. But in my personal opinion, it wasn't created correctly to begin with. So we're trying to make right something that was designed wrong to begin with, that was designed wrong to begin with, and it's going to take time to do it correctly. But as President Fithian has said, the goal has been to make sure that the retirees come out whole on the other end of this thing, and that's certainly been the driver. How we get there is critical. There's things I think can be done. We've talked about how we would structure the reimbursements to basically make up for lost time. But we still have to make sure that what we do and what we put into place is legal, it meets the regulatory requirements. None of the vendors are going to do something that's not going to do those things, and we shouldn't either. But doing it correctly is the right way to go about it. If I could make the clock move quicker on it, I'd be one of the happier people around. I was working on yet another draft today, a little while ago. I understand your frustration with it, and I respect it, and I understand the frustration of the retirees. We're working with the hand we were dealt with.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and I am sympathetic to it to a certain degree, but these former employees have already suffered at least a quarter of their reimbursements already.
Mm-hmm.
And if this thing goes beyond 40 days, we're going to be 2 quarters. They're going to be 2 quarters behind before we can make them whole. So anything that we can do to push it harder, do it right, I think that would be a good move on everyone's part.
I certainly consider that our mandate.
And I sort of get a little bit of a mixed message out of it, because in one breath we say, you know, we jumped the gun. And then the other thing you say is, well, this time we're gonna make sure it's done right. Are we saying that it wasn't right the first time and that?
Yes.
But we could have left it in place and tweaked it as we went through?
No.
So
We
then
couldn't have left
why
it
do you
in
say
place
you jumped the
because,
gun?
because we had consult that told us we couldn't do what we were doing. That didn't turn out to be entirely true. Part of it was, we could have done it, but we never filed documents to permit us to do it. Part of it was not even legal up until this year. So when I say we jumped the gun, it's because what was being done prior to 2023, didn't meet legal requirements at all. We had never filed paperwork to do the one program, and the other piece of it, the other part of the reimbursement, wasn't even permissible.
But they've been doing that since 2007.
And
as many
apparently it was
times
wrong.
And it very well may have been wrong, but I have and I'm not doubting what you're saying, Jim.
No, I get
But
that.
it just amazes me that the county has an audit done and nobody catches it.
Well, at least me remembering what I was told
Look,
about that part,
I know you were given bad information.
but I was also told
So,
that there was no audit. There wasn't an audit being done by anybody outside of the county for a bunch of years. And when finally we asked for one, this is when all this came up. And this all happened in 2023. I can't speak for what audits didn't occur prior to that.
If I may, I believe Jim is being humble when he says
He
they
is.
jumped the gun. Because as soon as they found out that there were things that were being done incorrectly, he had to stop what was being done. Otherwise, you're perpetuating and you're doing something that you now know is incorrect. And I will vouch for the HR department saying they have been, I mean, it's more than just every day. You're not touching a piece of paper once a day. I mean, you've been spending hours and hours every single day trying to get the documentation correct so that they can roll out the proper program.
There's a difference between something that we shouldn't have been doing it this way, but we didn't know, and it continued because of our lack of knowledge. That's different than knowing you can't do it and continuing to do it with that knowledge. So I think what happened here is Jim had to stop what we were doing because we didn't have the authority to do that.
Yes.
But that occurred before proper things were put in place to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Really what happened is there was information given, and I don't want to drag this out, but I mean, there was information given to county staff that we weren't allowed to do this. And lo and behold, the person given the information was wrong.
That was only
And-
for half of it.
Excuse me?
That was only for half of it. That only had to do with the reimbursement for deductibles.
Right.
The reimbursement for premiums could always have been done, but there was never paperwork submitted in prior years to permit that to occur. What we learned was that was happening, it shouldn't have been going on, only because we hadn't filed the proper documents. The reimbursement for the deductibles shouldn't have been going on at all, because up until, I'm told it was February of this year, it wasn't permissible under the regulations at all. So when I say
It was actually
prior to
It was actually
2023.
January.
Huh?
It was actually January.
Okay, I had heard February, but January. So prior to 2023, we were doing two types of reimbursements, and neither of which were permissible to be done. When we learned about it, yeah, we stopped it, because we couldn't, as Tom just pointed out, we couldn't continue to do something that violated regulations as we understood them at that time.
Look, I understand you were acting on what you were told, and I can appreciate that. The only thing I think we ought to move on from here, but really, when we have something of this magnitude that affects citizens, employees, benefits and so forth, we got to make sure that it's 100% spot on before we are given the information.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a good learning experience. Unfortunately, it's been a hurtful learning experience for some, but
Yeah.
I think we've all learned from this, because now, when we go to judge something like this and it's brought to our attention, we got to have all the information, and we got to make sure that it's ironclad. So,
Agreed.
you know, not my intention to criticize you for what you did or what you thought was right. You believed in what you were doing, and we believed in what we were doing.
Sure.
And we know that we've made a mistake, and we're going to fix it.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
No, I would just say, that I can't really add a whole lot to what was said, other than please make this the top priority right now and just get it done. The sooner the better for everybody, for us and the retirees and you, I'm sure, so.
Absolutely.
We're making sure every T is crossed and
And
I is
again,
dotted.
my main concern is that they're held harmless, and we.
Right.
Because that's,
We owe that to them.
we do. All right. Jim, I'm gonna take one question, one retiree in the audience. Yes, yes.
My understanding in this draft minute, last week, it's only going to start when the HRA was in place.
I'm sorry, Jim.
For the Medicare B, it cannot be retroactive.
No.
It can only be effective the date that the paperwork is finalized.
So we're still going to be hurt as long as this thing drags out.
And more to follow.
Well,
I don't,
you're right, Jim. You are going to be hurt, because legally, and again, this needs to be verified too. We've been told that we cannot retroactively reimburse the employees for the Medicare B premium payment. But trust me, I've been extremely involved in this. And we all have, actually. But I mean, what the retirees were getting before July 1st is unheard of. It's unheard of in government, it's unheard of in private business. We don't want to take it away from the ones that were getting it, and we're not going to. But legally, I don't think we're going to be able to reimburse that quarter that you're talking about, that quarter of that reimbursement of premium and deductible back to you, because it is, from what I've been told, illegal for us to do that. And that's coming from the new vendor that Jim's been working with, who has a pretty good reputation. They deal with retiree benefits, and frankly, are a lot smarter than Jim, me, or anybody else in this room, probably. Yeah. Well, I didn't want you to go out of here thinking that your question wasn't answered. If there was a way to do it, we would love to do it, and make you totally whole, which is our intentions. But I don't think legally we can.
and I'm gonna pile on there a little bit and say, don't count it out yet, because I don't think anybody, maybe it can't be worded that we're reimbursing you for that, but I could get, as a county commissioner, or board of commissioners, we could give you a Christmas present of a certain amount of money if we feel like it, and nobody can stop us from doing that. So I'm not convinced that you're gonna lose anything. And maybe I'll be corrected, but I don't believe that. I think there's a way to make it whole. You can call it whatever you want. As long as you don't call it whatever they're saying we're not allowed to do, you can say it's a cost of living, or it's a Christmas present. I don't care what but I think if you lost something due to this problem, I want to see it made up. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Can I ask you just to put one other thing out there?
Yes, sir.
Because recently, last week, I think it was, some of the retirees got an invoice in the mail from a vendor
Yes.
that the county uses. And it's my understanding that if they're listening, that they should just ignore that for now. And once we get all this worked out, we'll work on that piece of it.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. Yes. Short answer is yes, that's my understanding as well. I think we should sit tight.
Any other questions? Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, gentlemen.
County Administrator report.
Okay, I have 3 items for you. One is actually action and 2 are reports, and one's kind of a PSA. The first is we're seeking ratification to approve 4 enterprise leases. These are for Tahoes for the sheriff's office. These are budgeted items. The funding is already in our budget, and our approved vendor is Enterprise. And the reason these moved forward prior to today is because of basically emergency procurement. The climate that we're in right now, vehicles, especially these Tahoes, are very hard to come by, and our vendor found 4 that we could actually obtain and move forward with. So we're just seeking a motion for ratification.
I'll make a motion to ratify the purchase of these 4 Tahoes for the sheriff's office.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Okay, next we have an announcement that the invitations have gone out to our delegation and each of their 5 towns for October 24th, 10 a.m. meeting. This is for our annual MDOT tour to discuss the needs of Kent County, all things transportation. And the official name of this transportation tour is the Consolidated Transportation Program. So we will be discussing those items with MDOT on October 24th, 10 a.m.
Is this a follow-up from the MACO conference?
They come every single year. They're actually required by statute. They only have a certain number of weeks that they have to visit all 24 jurisdictions. But yes, in effect, it's a follow-up from that meeting. We meet with them twice a year, once at MACO and once as part of the CTP tour.
They usually have somebody from SHA, somebody from MTA,
The MVA.
MVA, all the different agencies here.
They're all there.
They're all there.
Yeah, and as Shelley said, they're required to make the rounds.
Right. And finally, we have 2 additional certificates of appreciation for Henry Highland Garnett alumni. No action necessary.
And those certificates have all been delivered.
Yes.
Yes.
Assume so, yeah.
Tom, the letters for signature, what's this?
Yeah, just following up, there were some concerns raised about a special Class C license. The clerk had drafted a letter. These came up the week that I was on vacation. And then I reviewed those. I had some suggestions, and we discussed this at last week's meeting. So I've revised the letters. I think they clarify the concerns and also provide some guidance to the applicant and the license holder. So those letters are available for your signature. It's actually one letter, but there's 2 individuals that were on the license, so it's the same letter, but just go to 2 people.
Okay. Time for public comment. Do we have a sign-up sheet back there that someone? First up, Donzella Wilson.
Is it still open to sign up? He wants to sign up.
Yeah,
Sure.
You can sign up. Ball 2.
sorry.
That's okay. Just wanted to have your attention as well, that's all. So as you know, I'm Donna Sella Wilson. I'm with Menary's Dream Alliance, located at 9155 American Legion Road here in Chestertown, Maryland. In efforts to tell both sides of the story, we wanted to briefly recap the Soca Wine Festival that was held at our property on 9/16. Some background information on the festival is that the festival travels the East Coast, garnering hundreds of attendees in each of the states. We were thrilled to host this event as this is the first time the festival would be held on the Eastern Shore. As attendees entered Kent County, they had several parking options. We deemed one lot unsafe for parking and decided for participants to park on site and also on the Dixon Valve lot. During the event, the liquor inspector attended the event and advised that she was visiting at the request of the commissioners and determined everything was in order, which we knew at the last meeting that you asked her to attend, and which she did. Officer Nolan with the Sheriff's Office also arrived on site that day. And I engaged with Officer Nolan. He advised me that he was wearing a body camera that was recording that day. And he said he had received several complaints about noise. He also stated that he did not hear the music until he reached the building. While he was on site, I introduced him to the organizer of the event, who advised he would have the sound technicians turn down the bass, in which he did at that time, that he walked with Officer Nolan around the facility, around the premises, so he could monitor what was going on at the event. Officer Nolan left our event. Since 2020, the county offices, as well as other organizations, have received multiple complaints from a select few of the neighbors on Mallet, and in every instance, those complaints were unfounded. The Soca event we knew would be no different with complaints from the neighbors. What has caught our attention about the most recent complaints from the neighbors was that the commissioners' meeting following the event, the mention of a notice about outdoor events, specifically on our property, and a liquor license. This mention comes after complaints from a group has been continuously complaining about our organization. Now, this past Saturday, on 9/30, police were called again to our property. They were called for a noise complaint. There was an indoor event at our site, a wedding reception for a long-time Kent County resident of a business owner here in Kent County. One could wonder, what is the true issue? Noise inside of our facility, noise outside of our facility. We have requested mediation with our neighbors in 2022 with no answer. We currently have a current request for mediation from those same neighbors. Since the festival on 9/16, Menary's Dream Alliance has completed the following. Just in this 2-week time period, this is our impact here in Kent County and across the Eastern Shore. We have registered over 100 students for our after-school program that began today at Kent County Middle School. We have accepted, delivered, and partnered to bring 19,000 pounds of food into Kent County to impact the food insecure folks here in this community. We have attended the following training courses since 9/16: CPR and first aid, implicit bias, enhancing school mental health on Maryland's Eastern Shore, disparity data on school suspensions, ACEs, and parenting through modern trauma. We have been accepted as a service year site for Governor Moore's service year option for recent graduates. Our first interview starts tomorrow. We are currently also hosting interns from Washington College and Salisbury University, which some of them are with us today. We have set out to identify problems, barriers, and challenges in our community and provide solutions. We have brought in federal, state, and local funding to support families in Kent County as well as across the Eastern Shore, as we have 5 offices across the Eastern Shore, 16 staff members that we're serving. We will continue to provide phenomenal programs and projects and will not allow our work to be reduced by a few who only want to complain without solutions. I do also have another notice that I can read or submit. This is in support from Frank Rose, who could not be here tonight as he had a prior engagement. For the county commissioners, I am a local supporter of Menary's Dream Alliance. We finally have a permanent location for mentoring our youth. MDA supports families in need, sponsors back-to-school programs, and supports our local schools. They have a turkey giveaway, which one is coming up in November, support the MLK program, and focus on reducing trauma in our communities. We need to work together and share the opportunities Kent County offers to all of our citizens. Sincerely, Frank Rose. Happy to answer any questions or receive any comments.
Paul, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Briefly, I don't know if it's a time limit or not, but I just wanted to.
Time's up.
I just wanted to echo Don Sella and say a couple things. One, since the inception of Menary's Dream Alliance, we've worked with you, Commissioner Fitty, and with you, Commissioner Price, and also with you, Commissioner Nickerson, and we feel supported by our county commissioners. We've hosted Governor Moore, we've hosted Lieutenant Governor Arona Miller, we've hosted the current comptroller, Ms. Brooke Learman, we've hosted the former comptroller, Mr. Peter Francho. all in Kent County, and we're proud to have our hub and our main base here in Kent County. It's discouraging that we're constantly under attack from a small group, because in large and in whole, Kent County supports us, and not just black people, white people, the people of Kent County, right? We service the people of Kent County. We have all people in our programs, all different races, ethnicities in our program. So I just want to be clear that we do feel supported by our commissioners and by this community at large. And it's a shame that we have to continue to deal with that same group of people. We gave you our word, especially when we applied for the license for the Soca Festival, and I feel like our word was honored. So it was discouraging to hear that. I don't know who said it. I haven't watched the video, but it just come back through text messages and stuff like that, and people that support us, that it seems like we can't follow the rules. Like my word, our word is our word. That's our bond. And we gave that word to y'all, and I feel like we went above and beyond to comply and to stand on our word for the last event. So, respectfully, I just wanted to say that.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way about the county and the commissioners, because we do support you. I applaud you for all the good work that you're doing there. There's no question about it. We're just trying to get a handle on this one issue about the noise. That's the only complaint that we've had. And I know we had a discussion here the other week that it's, everybody can put a different definition of what noise is. But we just thought that maybe this time when there was a complaint levied, it was because it was held outside, and we did make the comment, well, maybe we pass on that maybe it should be kept inside if that's what's going to be causing the issues. But as far as your programs and the work you're doing, we all applaud you for that, and we stand behind you 100% in what you do.
Thank you.
So we'll get past this noise issue, I bet.
So I'd like to follow up on exactly what you said here today. Everything that you said, I think is spot on, okay? Because as an elected official, sometimes you give people your email, you give them your cell phone number, or I do, and want their input. So my number's been out there for a lot of years, because when I was sheriff, I did the same thing. And I also remember when I was sheriff that I tried to get them to to come join the mediation between your organization and the neighborhood. I thought I had it accomplished, because they said yes, and then I heard that they said no. And we, as you know, we can't force anybody to try to mediate.
Right.
But I thought that would have been a positive thing for everybody involved, because you are neighbors. You're their neighbor, and vice versa. But on this particular day in question, and I had no idea that there's conditions on the application. Look, I've never really looked at the liquor licenses. I rely on Tom to do that, our attorney, the application. But it clearly says that you cannot create a public nuisance that disturbs or causes a nuisance. That afternoon, about 3:15, I got a call, and I know there's not really bad blood, I don't want to say that, but there's a dislike between the two groups, and maybe not yours, but I mean, it appears to me, it's pretty evident that they have issues with you all holding your programs. That's been very, very evident to me. But anyhow, I got a call to go out there. And the way I operate, I got in my truck, my wife went with me, I rode out there, I parked in the field there, I walked up to the gate, was hoping to see one of you all there. And I saw nothing wrong, other than the music was loud. I spoke with the sheriff's office, and they said they had 4 calls for service out there, I believe. I know Inspector Pearsall was out there, visited. She saw no problem with what was going on. It was actually a middle-aged crowd. Everything was fine, other than the loud noise. And when we had our meeting here and we talked about, because you will be getting a letter from us expressing our concerns about the fundraiser and suggestions on what you can maybe do to avoid this from happening in the past. But it sounds like to me, you just had a wedding there. It was inside, and there were still complaints.
And the officer that responded, he didn't deal with either one of us, but he told the person who he dealt with, I can't hear anything until the door opens. Right, so then it gets into, and not to cut you off, it gets into how many times can you, it's a small county, an officer having to continuously respond to non-issues is a waste of resources. When they're calling over and over and over
Over the
again.
years, there's a lot of people that report things that are a waste of resources. But we're obligated to be responsive and to at least check it out.
Right, and so and I'm sorry, Commissioner Price.
No, that's right.
Just feeling like noise is a subjective topic, as we had two other county employees that attended the event who said nothing was wrong. One who is familiar with the liquor license application in that first line that says that you cannot create a noise disturbance. So that is on the application. We read it through and through because we wanted to make sure that we would not have any issues. And so, and like you said, it was a middle-aged crowd. We have complaints from one set of the neighbors, but you don't have complaints from the other set of the neighbors. Who we asked, was the noise a problem? And they responded no. And so we've asked them to submit those letters to you as well. So we just feel like those complaints coming from the same people who have complained since 2020, we don't know how, and I'm feeling reprimanded in that saying it was noisy, it was noisy. Yes, it was an outside music festival. It was noise. And there was noise there, but we also turned down the noise from when people felt as though it was too loud, and we abided by that. So still feeling like noise is one of those things that if it was measured, I know they had their decimal readers and things like that.
They didn't have anything.
Okay, I don't know what it was, you know, we received all the notes because I refused to watch the video and to
There's a
watch
lot
that
involved in
recording.
that. It's got to be calibrated, certified.
Yeah, and it was over when it was supposed to be over. That I took a picture, the timestamp when it was over, and people left the property. There was no trash left behind. There was no one drunk on our property. And like you said, it was more than a middle-aged crowd. It was like an over 50 crowd that was there. So we had retirees and everyone that attended. I'm sorry.
They said that's middle age.
Well, you know, I don't accept that because I'm just about 50. Okay?
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's
Okay,
middle
so
age.
no, I don't accept that. But no, so still feeling like that, it's just subjective to say noise when you have some groups that came and said, and employees who monitor the liquor license that came in and said she heard enough from the organizer as they plan these events and have to be able to explain the noise and the liquor license to other states that they're in. But this was a highlight for Kent County to bring in some 300 people attended the event. And so to bring in that kind of festival here in the county, we wanted to be comparable to the Jazz Festival and things like this. This was a different opportunity for community members. And the one time this event was held on the Eastern Shore. So we were proud of that, to bring that festival here. But now what it's opened up is dialogue from the attendees on people that were standing on the road and frowning at them. And so it's opened up that dialogue for us. And so we just want to make sure our work continues to not be reduced, that we have the support of the commissioners to have a fair judgment when you are making these recommendations for noise at our property, because we're not sure what that will mean. So we will wait for the letter, I guess, from Mr. Yeager and then go from there.
As long as the applications are filled out properly and you know, it's noted in there. I mean, I think our only concern and our only intent with the letter is that we be considerate of the neighbors and consider holding the events inside as opposed to outside. And we're certainly not trying to govern what you do on your own property. That's your business.
Correct.
You know, but I also look at this too. You know, we have Tea Party here every year. We have music. We have the cannons going off. We have all this noise here one day. I don't think anybody complains about that. And so we hear you loud and clear. It's just that when we issue these licenses, we want, number one, to make sure that we're doing it in good faith, that we're being fair and consistent. That's our intention. You know,
Thank you.
I hope you had a great fundraiser.
We did.
It looked like a nice event to me, other than I did think the music was loud when I was there.
And again, whose ears are listening? Is that
that's
middle-aged
just
crowd
it.
noise, or who is listening to you?
Well, that's what I was.
I'm hard of hearing, that
So,
is.
see, who's
Well,
noise?
look, guys,
Whose
thanks
noise
for
capital?
coming, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
But I do want you, I mean, there is some other similar issues that go on in the county, and you hit the nail on the head with the subjectiveness of the noise. But I guess the biggest, or I think I think you guys want to be good neighbors. We want everybody to be good neighbors, and maybe opening up some dialogue with the neighbors.
We're on our second attempt.
Well,
Or a third attempt.
Commissioner Price, he
But, I
definitely
mean, that
tried.
would
We're
be,
trying again.
in my opinion, I think that maybe is how we get to the solution and move forward. Because I honestly, you guys are here to stay for a while, we hope.
Yes, sir.
We don't, every time you have an event, we don't want to have to deal with this issue.
Well,
So-
we don't want to.
Well, I know you don't. No, no,
With the
well,
police showing up to an event
No,
for
I know. I
unfounded,
didn't
which
mean
is
that at
happening
all.
over and over
But-
again, so.
But, yeah, hopefully we can do some open dialogue
Yes, sir.
and move forward with this. And if we can help in that manner, I mean,
And we've been willing to do that from the beginning before we purchased the property. We held that first meeting downstairs to discuss our motives and our plans for the location. So we've been more than willing to have that dialogue. So if you're able to make that happen, we would be glad to participate.
Show up, for sure.
But just to echo real quick what Albert was referring to with the other noises, noise complaints here in the county. Jellyfish Joel's. It's a bar down in Great
I don't
Oaks.
even know where that is.
The folks at Great Oak Manor feel it's hurting their business. People aren't happy about the music. They complain to us. There's not a lot that the commissioners can do about that. We have the folks at Kennard's Point, where the boats come in and they raft up on the weekend, and they play loud music. And that disturbs the people up on the shore, especially on the water. It carries real loud. So, I mean, you're not the only noise complaint that we have been talked to about. But to me, it's a one-day event. It's no different than Tea Party. It's no different than any other event for one day. And as long as you're abiding by the alcohol laws, and trying to be reasonable, I don't think it's a problem.
Thank you. Thank all three.
Thanks for coming in.
Yep.
Thank you. And we have a Vanessa Trixon. Good evening.
I'm Vanessa Holloway Truxton. I'm an employee at Menary's Dream Alliance at 9155 American Legion Road. And I was there that day of the festival, and I actually assisted in some of the planning of the festival. There were no secrets that it was going to be a festival, and many of us that are here are over the age of 35, so we have been to a festival before. There is going to be music there. I can say being there, as far as the music being loud, people were able to have conversations with those sitting next to them and across from them, and they never had to raise the octave of their voice in order to be heard. Once again, there was no trash. Now, what was concerning is while the festival was being set up, those that came before the commission prior to tonight, they didn't tell how they were standing out in the middle of the road, documenting every move. That borders on harassment. That doesn't necessarily give us a peaceful place to work at when you're constantly under a microscope. In the climate of today's world, you do not know necessarily what is on someone's mind when they are intimidating you from the road, documenting every move you make. That is not necessarily comforting. That encroaches on our peace. What can we do about that? Should we call the police every time that happens? Should we use our county resources for those types of events? You keep referring to the music as noise. A sound is only noise if you decide that you don't like it. Just because you don't like the music doesn't mean that it's noise. It doesn't mean that it's too loud. It merely means that you just don't want to hear it. How is that fair? If I'm not encroaching on your property, if I'm parking on the grass in which we pay to maintain and cut, I don't think that it should bother you that there are tires on our grass. I don't think that it should bother you that we're outside. One of the things that we do is we support mental health of those in our community, everyone in our community. One of the things that I do at Menaries is I'm the keeper of the garden. The best thing for someone who is dealing with mental health issues, who are dealing with depression, is to go outside. So are we not allowed to go outside in large groups? Are we not allowed to heal and enjoy the sunshine?
Well,
Are we not allowed to listen to
Let me interrupt you just for a
music?
second, because you're obviously, you're allowed to go outside and you're allowed to have events outside. What we were referring to is if they're trying to get two sides together to deal with this noise, if you were gonna have music, maybe do it inside. We thought maybe that might be a suggestion. But as far as being outside, you're welcome to do whatever anyone else is allowed to do outside. I don't want you going away from here thinking that we don't want you outside or having festivals outside. Have what you want out there as long as it's, I think the only complaint that we got was about this noise. And you're right. I mean, noise to some people is music to others. And that's, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I didn't want you to think that we're trying to prohibit you from using your facility.
And parking, you can park wherever you want to on your property. I mean, they even complained about the septic. That has nothing to do with us.
Well, we look
You
forward.
know, I mean, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, we look forward to having another festival next year, and we hope that you can engage in it. And hopefully we'll play music that won't be considered noise.
Thank you. Thank you. Robert Thomas.
Good evening, how y'all doing tonight?
How are you?
I'm not gonna keep beating the dead horse, but my name is Robert Thomas. I was born here in Chestertown, grew up in Churchill, a stone throw away. I'm the vice president of Menaries. My whole adult life has been that of service. Spent time in the military. I got out of the military. I was a Miami-Dade sheriff. I came back to this area. I was a volunteer firefighter. I was a Cub Scout leader. I was a character coach. I was numerous, things in the community. My joining Menaries was a continuation of wanting to do things for the community. My whole adult life has been built on integrity and honor. I stand firm on that being a man. That's what I teach my kids about integrity and honor. So to hear the statements about we were unable to follow, rules, it hit home. Because of the fact is we have things going on in about every county here on the Eastern Shore. On a daily basis, we are held to regulations, rules, and have no problem meeting those. Now, when you say the noise complaint, up until 9 o'clock, 2100 hours, residential and commercial noise level is 65. That's across the board. So to say it was unnecessary, if it was not above the level of 65, it cannot be deemed unnecessary. Again, like Vanessa said, it may not be to your liking, but we did not break any rules. I work at night. I have a neighbor that stays across from me, doesn't have a job, but he has a souped up truck with a loud exhaust. All day long, he's back and forth. Can't stand it. But for that time of the day, he is not breaking any noise restrictions for the town I live in, which is Denton, Maryland. So it doesn't do me no good to complain, that's just about, being in, a community. Now, if it was after 9 o'clock at night, yes, then I would have a cause to make some calls and have something done about that. But in that time of the day, he's within his rights. Just like for us having this event for that time of day, if we were not over that level, it cannot be deemed unnecessary noise. It's not a matter of opinion, it's what the rules are, As far as the parking, again, I guess that might have been a miscommunication and everything. Our off-site parking was an overflow to when our facility met its capacity, so we wouldn't interfere with the community. We had off-site parking, so it was no blockage of the roadway or anything like that. But parking on our grass or our facility, had nothing to do with now mentioning that we said we had off-site parking and we did not utilize it. We never met the capacity to which we had to use that. Now, it was also mentioned a few times about the statement that what the judge allowed us to do. I'm also an American Legion, member. I'm a past commander of the American Legion. Because Frank Jarman's may have not had an outside event, they were still allowed to have an outside event. As the American Legion, our first mission is to that of the troops, the soldiers. Our second mission is that of the community. On an everyday, daily, monthly, yearly basis, our responsibility is to hold fundraisers, provide different things for the community, So to say we are going against what was ruled by the judge, no. We're just doing something that they did not do, but we were allowed to do, So I've been a part of many American Legions. I've attended many outside, functions with music and, we military, so drinking and everything. I mean, that's just what, transpires at those things. Now, the organization we partner with, like was mentioned before, they do this up and down the East Coast. It is their responsibility, if they want to continue to do this up and down the coast, to follow the local and state laws and regulations. They research it themselves. They do not want to break any of these laws because they do not want to lose their business. So as far as the parking, the music, they had a tech that walked around the whole event, adjusting for my iPad, the music and everything like that. It was mentioned at the last meeting that the music went up and down. There was different things going on. And sometimes you had people speaking. At other times you had live people singing. At other times you had a DJ playing music. Those things are going to come across louder or quieter depending on, what's going on at that time. So again, the disheartening thing is this would be something if this was the first time we had to deal with this. I drove up here today and it's like deja vu, Even before we took ownership, we had to come here several times to speak on what we were going to do. They were condemning us even before we had ownership of the, Menaries. And now it's just a continuing, thing that's ongoing, My son attended. My son is ex-military also. He's actually a contractor at the NSA. He brought some of his friends that are, still in the military from Fort Meade. And obviously they are all in the intelligence field. They're sitting there and they call me Coach Rob, like I was a long-time coach. Why is there a man standing over at the edge of the woods? Coach Rob, why do these people keep walking up and down, this road? This is things that to them caught their eye, but to the average person to see that's intimidating. If we paraded in front of their houses, we're all neighbors, but if we were paraded in front of their houses or standing at the edge of their property, what would that be viewed like? Because we don't live there, we are still neighbors. And that same way they would perceive that is the same way we perceive that. So are you trying to intimidate us? Are you trying to scare us? or what? If I came to the ends of your property, standing in the woods, look at how would you feel?
No, your point's well taken.
You know, so again, we have reached out for dialogue. We're still open to dialogue, but at some point, you know, this is really getting, you know, out of hand. You know, and like say the nature of, you know, what's going on in this world now. Again, you know, it just, you know, what can we do? So I just want to communicate to you that, you know, just like they said, they're putting the flag up, we have our flag up too. You know, and we're asking for the same support and the same help, you know, that they're asking for. So whatever the middle ground is, we're open for that. And we just ask, you know, y'all to help us, you know, reach that.
Thank you very much.
I think it goes without saying, and I meant to follow up with the statement also. If you feel unsafe on the property because someone's standing there, that's when you need to call. You need to call the sheriff's office or the state police and have them respond out there to check those people out, to make sure that there's nothing evil going on. So don't ever hesitate to call if you don't feel safe.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your service,
Thank you
sir.
for your service. Christina Herman.
Hello, good evening. How are you guys?
Good.
I feel like I'm totally changing the topic, but I'd like to quickly introduce myself. My name is Christina Herman. You guys already know that. I'm currently serving as the HOA president for the village at Kennedyville. My husband is Alexander Herman, and we've lived in our home for 16 years. We were one of the first to purchase in the neighborhood, and we definitely had higher hopes for where the neighborhood would be by now. I work for a small design firm that is actually located in Locust Grove, so I stay really close to home. And our son is in Kent County High School currently as a senior. We are definitely really invested in this community, and we have hopes that it will go somewhere really soon. First and foremost, I would really like to thank Mike Molds, Daniel Bitter, William Mackey, and Chris Yanikis for their hard work helping me sort out the many issues that have existed since I took office this past April. Without their willingness to help, I would not have gotten as far as I have so far. I am really grateful for what they've done so far since April. It's been amazing. The dedication of roads in the village of Kennedyville is what prompted my attendance today, but I have several things I'd really like to briefly touch on first. The first thing is that it's come to my attention that there's possibly a new developer lined up for Phase 2. It'd be extremely helpful if you could keep me informed as the HOA president regarding the progress of any developments there, as I'm constantly being asked by residents for information. Not only have we invested our largest financial asset in the development, but our family's safety and security are directly linked to the decisions made regarding Phase 2, and we have no information whatsoever. If you have any information, please share it. If anything changes, we totally understand, but I'm asked almost every day, every time I leave my house. Second is the Kennedyville well pump filter and holding tank system. It's my understanding that the new developer is responsible providing upgrades to that system with the additional above ground tank, and the county would be moving the existing pump station from the one side of 213 to the other side of our small pond at the entrance of the neighborhood. While I understand there's existing issues that have to be resolved in that process, I want to shed some light on an issue that you may not be aware of. After the last change to the sand media in your filter system, it became apparent that some sand was lost into the system, and that went into several homes within the village, my home in particular. I have documented this and worked with Chris Yanikis to try and resolve this issue to no end, and the sand remains in my pipes today, consistently clogging them, my fixtures, appliances, and causing serious issues and damage to many of them. Before you push forward with Phase 2, I would urge you to resolve existing issues with customers who have been loyal. A water bill of almost $300 a quarter is a hard pill to swallow when sand is clogging your pipes and causing major damages to your appliances. Last is the road dedication of the streets in the neighborhood, which would allow for the fiber internet to be installed. I'll break it down simply. The fiber project started in Kent County in 2016. I first contacted Think Big on August 24th, 2020 about getting fiber. My husband and I attended the Kent County Commissioners meeting on November 2nd, 2021, and learned that Phase 2 would be taken over by the county at the end of the year. After reaching back out to Think Big, I received an email on August 8th of 2022. I was informed that they tried to get approval to build in the neighborhood, but the developer had not turned over the right-of-way to the roads. When they contacted the developer, they said that they had turned it over. They would check back with the county to see if anything had changed, but they would certainly like to receive permits. All things considered, if the county could have dedicated the roads January of 2022, 2 months following the county commissioners meeting, 21 months ago, not including this month, my family alone could have saved $1,470, the cost difference between Think Big and Breeze Line for service. Multiply that by 25 homeowners, that is $36,750 we as a neighborhood could have saved in internet cost. For families living paycheck to paycheck, there's no excuse. I really appreciate your time listening to me, and I look forward to working with you as we make Kennedyville better.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And I think I was out and met with you a couple years ago, and
Probably.
Bobby Jacobs and myself went out and we met with you. And I can only tell you that I'm embarrassed that we haven't kept our word, because we told you when we left there that some of that was going to be taken care of, and it's been well overdue. And all I can tell you right now is that we're actively working on it now, but it's taken way too long.
It's been a really long, hard process for us to sit and watch and feel ignored, quite honestly.
I can understand your position.
Do you still have the sand issue in order currently?
Currently. Yeah. It has ruined countless dishwashers in my house, and we just had to replace our instant hot water heater.
We don't have our Public Works Director here with us tonight, but your issues we will discuss them with him.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And again, I personally apologize that it hasn't been taken care of.
And I can attest to personally, Mr. Commissioner Fithy, in bringing this Village of Kennedyville up, almost every meeting or every other meeting, just so it doesn't do you any good, but he does bring it up to see where we are at on things. And to my knowledge, I think maybe Tom can elaborate on the road transfers a little
We've
bit,
been
but
working on that. The deed was drafted, it was sent around to Mr. Mackey and Mr. Molds for some comments, came back, a second deed was drafted, or the original deed was revised. We actually have a meeting between myself, Mr. Mackey, and Mr. Molds to go over the plat and to go over some things. There's a little more to it than just the streets, because there are issues of utility easements, access points, stormwater management. There are a whole number of things that should have been addressed by the developer that turned it over to us that weren't. And our concern is that we want to make sure that we get it and get it done right. So that's why we've had a lot of things, drafts that have gone back between us and comments. And so where we are, the three of us are going to sit down, and I think our plan is after that meeting that we'll have it all ready to go. At least that's our expectation. And I understand what you're saying with the streets. We had approached the prior developer years ago, and to get him to take care of that, and he didn't, so now it's our responsibility, and it's taken longer than it should. I'm with you on that, but we're on it, it's gonna get done. Mr. Mackey, do you have any comments?
You're not throwing him under the bus, Tom.
No, just if he had
Now,
anything to add.
As far as, I mean, to my knowledge, there's not another, I mean, we're trying to move obviously, we're trying to move forward with this, but like everything that I've found sitting in this chair seems to take a little bit longer than in the private sector. But to my knowledge, there are no other developers that that are in negotiations or anything like that with that. Just, I mean,
There's
there
interest.
are some interest, yes, but there's nothing
And
even
we're-
close to being.
Okay.
And we're just about to go out for a broker opinion of value.
Right, we don't
which-
even know what we're trying to figure out,
Right,
establish a
exactly.
value.
Okay.
And honestly, I mean, we're just kind of marketing, we want to get this thing going, we're not marketing it as a
That's
money-making
helpful to
thing.
know. Just, I mean, I'm telling you, every time I walk out and I walk my dog, every day, somebody's asking me questions, and I have no answers. And if I ask questions, it takes me probably 3 weeks to get a sort of answer, so it's hard for me to answer any questions.
There's also, I don't know if you've read all the declaration and all that, but it envisions things going to the association to maintain. And often when that happens, the association doesn't have the funding or the wherewithal to maintain certain things. So that's one of the issues that Mr. Molds and Mr. Mackey and I are looking at to see, there may be some things that are supposed to go to the association, but maybe that's not the best idea. But then we can't, as far as transferring, for example, one of the things is, once the development is built out, things go to the association, and then the association, if they want, can transfer stuff to the county.
Yeah.
But that, in the documents, that comes when there's a certain threshold
Yes,
made
correct.
about building. So there's some things that are a bit problematic and are not the most workable things in there, and that's what we're trying to sort out to get the best path to get where we need to go.
Yeah.
So there's more issues than just the streets out there.
Yes, because we as an association are having a very difficult time collecting dues from people.
And you're not alone, that happens, and what often happens is when you have these developments where you have a set of covenants that the developer does that turns things over to the association, then the association either doesn't have the personnel to do it, or they don't have the funds because not everybody will participate, then things aren't being maintained the way they're supposed to be maintained. And then your option is to go and put liens on the property owners, but then you have to spend money to do that, and most of the time, the association doesn't have the budget to collect what they need to collect from the homeowners. So these are all valid points, and I think we're trying to work through things to get a good path here, to get this development built out, and to look for the future as to how we're gonna maintain things once that's done.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Well, I appreciate what effort you're putting forward, and just know that we're anxious to get things moving, and at the same time, the streets, the internet is a really big hot button issue. It would save every resident money. I know for my family, it's $70 a month that we don't save, not being able to switch.
Well, these gentlemen have
So-
made it very clear to me that it's a priority for them to get this done.
It's a priority
And so-
for me. I know it's a priority for a lot of our residents.
Right.
The water is a huge issue personally for me. I know it is for many other residents in the neighborhood. There's other things that I know keep coming up, such as the walking path and other things. Street lights for safety. It's insanely dark in the
I think
neighborhood.
the streetlights
So-
fall into the same issue with the internet, that until
Yeah.
until the streets are dedicated to the county.
Yeah, we can't do that, yeah.
We can't lay the wires, but it's no excuse. We've had time to do it. We should have done it. It's not done, and we apologize.
Yeah,
I
and
do.
I know there was a safety issue recently in the neighborhood where somebody was out and ran at one of the neighbors maybe 2 weeks ago, and so safety has come back up, and it would be really nice to have lights up, so it's kind of all coming back up. So we would really appreciate it. The faster, the better.
So what I would like to suggest that we do is that we ask our county administrator to contact Mike Molds in the morning and to address the sand issue in the water to start with, if you can do that.
We've already taken
As
all
long as
the
everyone
notes.
agrees. And
Oh, absolutely.
At our last meeting, Tom, we asked you how long before we can move forward with this dedication.
Correct, and I had done the revisions on the deed shortly after that, submitted them to Mike with my comments. Mike then came back and arranged to have a meeting with me and Bill, which has been scheduled. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's our hope that after we have that meeting, we will have everything finalized and ready to submit. That's our plan. At least as far as the streets go. We may have to separate out some of these other issues. I was hoping to get them all done in one swoop, but because the streets are such a priority, there's a good chance we're gonna separate the streets out from the other issue.
Well, anything at this point in time will be a
Yeah,
benefit
and-
for the development, so.
Yeah, and I understand it's a priority for the commissioners, and these gentlemen have made it their priority, so we're gonna get it done.
Perfect, thank you.
And thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. It's always nice to hear it,
I appreciate
person to
it.
person, face to face, and that's the best way to discuss something.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The sand issue, I called you the other night.
You did, you got me.
And so you have my phone number. So if the sand issue doesn't get better or resolve itself, I would like to know.
I will keep in touch.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Nugent?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all. I met most of you at the candidate forum at Washington College last October, so thank you for coming to that, and I'd like to think that it pushed your candidacies over the edge. So congrats on your victories. So I'm a resident of Kent County for 7 years and Director of Civic Engagement at Washington College, and I felt compelled after listening to last month's County Commissioners meeting online to testify about my own experiences working with Menaries Dream Alliance and how they've been able to serve our campus and community. Over the past 3 years, I've worked with MDA to create 36 paid summer internships for high schoolers for 5-week periods each. I've seen them host over 20 Washington College student interns from the Poli-Sci Department, Education Department, Sociology Department to mentor hundreds of K through 12 students in this community. They've partnered with many of our departments and programs to bring grant monies into this county. They've mentored our student leaders, our clubs, and provided safe spaces for students to meet. They've engaged and employed our alumni, and they've served our classrooms and our professors as guest lecturers and speakers. And this is only how they're serving Washington College. I know you all know, and you reiterated this earlier in the meeting. How they serve Washington College is just a drop in the bucket compared to what they've done for our county. Whether it's the food program, the after-school programs, the civil rights bus trip to Montgomery and Birmingham and Atlanta for K through 12 students, their organization of the MLK Service Day, their creation of full-time and part-time jobs, their support of small businesses and tourism, their support of outdoor education, gardening, music, and arts, their hosting of mental health services and support groups. In short, MDA is a rising star and a hard-proven diamond of the Eastern Shore, and as a county community, we need to fight to keep them here. What a tragedy it would be to lose them from our county. They could move to any county they wanted to. We need to fight to keep them here, and it's for the betterment of our entire county. I feel particularly compelled to enumerate MDA's value for this community because their detractors have never mentioned this in their comments. They never contextualize any of their complaints with any half mention of the value this organization's bringing to our community. It's as if they don't realize it. What they describe as noise is the sound of you and me. It's the sound of our county being served and invested in. It's the sound of our vibrant community. And I have to say that I've lived in Chestertown for 7 years, and I've heard the sounds of festivals and liquor license noise many, many days. And my response is probably what all of us would do in this room. We might be frustrated, it might upset our children's or our parents' sleeping patterns, but ultimately we either pull the blinds or decide to go and join it. And to say hello, maybe make a personal request to someone to turn it down, but typically we join because it's our community. So I guess in sum, I just ask to keep doing what you're doing. I applaud your comments today. Please keep reminding your constituents of what a gem Menary's Dream Alliance is in our community, how much they serve, how valuable they are to our county. And please continue to keep in context the complaints of a very, very small minority of homeowners who are exhausting our county resources to make noise complaints about a festival that was going on from noon to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak that maybe didn't sign up? There being none, then we have a closed session to go. Jim, could you hang around?
Yes, sir.
Tom, you don't have to stay if you don't want to.
I make a motion to go into closed session under the Annotated Code of Maryland, General Provisions, Article 3-305, little b, 1.
Thank you.
To discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom the public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The